that's the real challenge that we have with living longer is we can't disassociate living infirmed with living longer. I think if you ask the question, how much longer would you like to live infirmed? Most people are like, well, not that much longer. Like that doesn't sound that attractive. But if you change the question to say, hey, David, if you had the same mental capacity that you have today and you had the same physical capacity that you have today, would you then be interested in living longer? And that's that shift. That's where people start to go, well, yeah, that starts to sound interesting. Or like, how do I hack my body to be the best, strongest, fastest, healthiest, longest living body that I can make it into? And you start digging into some of these cutting edge longevity experts.
And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for spending your valuable time right here at the Adapt 2030 channel as we see our world and our complex systems of delivery starting to, well, shall we say, shrink further. We're going to have to think of different options moving forward in terms of getting ready for these changes and actually implementing them to, I guess, to the most succinct ways that we can to optimize our health moving through these changes that we can all see are squarely in front of us. So today, Chris Burres is with me, along with Patty Greer, C60 EVO. You've seen the ads that I run. I do believe in the product, and that's why I have them on to talk today. Because you understand how many people come at me every single month to advertise. I only put things on that I truly believe in, or I wouldn't. I'm not going to spend the time and your time and waste your money if I don't believe in something. That's why it's front and center right here, because I wanted to learn a little more about it. You know, I'm trying to learn about chemistry myself a little bit more, how some of these products have been coming through the historical, I should say, chemistry from the Nobel Prize award winners, because I'm trying to implement some of these things with fertilizers, and I'm trying to really learn the chemistry on different things putting in my body and different things I'm putting on my plants also to accelerate growth. So that's why I'm into this chemistry phase at the moment and just trying to be a sponge and learn as much as I can. So I thought I would share with the interview today so everybody else can learn right along with me, because again, it's all about learning and then implementing these things in our lives. So Chris and Patty, I appreciate you joining me. And I guess I'll throw the notes I had here. I've had some people write in after and say, well, what's the difference between C60 and graphene? We're hearing about graphene all over the place, and carbon black, isn't that part of a tire? Like, you know, a lot of people are seeing the different overlays, especially in the news recently with graphene and then C60 and the little confusion there. So I was hoping we could delve into that first.
Absolutely. So first, David, thank you so much for having us on the show. I'm excited to share with your audience maybe things that they haven't heard about, some research that maybe they haven't heard about, some concepts of living longer, living healthier, and how those are really coming about, and really how we are changing our thought processes about living longer and how well we can live longer. You mentioned C60 and graphene. I can talk really quickly about that and really kind of dive into why we talk about ESS60 instead of C60. But C60, for those of you who are watching, I'm holding up a molecule. For those of you who are just listening, the molecule looks like a soccer ball. If you had the lines between the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms, you have a spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. That molecule was discovered in 1985. The three scientists who discovered it won the Nobel Prize in 96. So short 11 years from discovery to being awarded the Nobel Prize for that. We'll kind of segue here and talk a little bit about graphene. This is a little, I made this and I'm holding up basically a graphite sheet. One graphite sheet is exactly what graphene is. You can see that it's a flat sheet, and it's very different than a curved soccer ball shaped molecule. So some people are like, oh, isn't it graphene? Well, it is all carbon, but diamond is also all carbon. And we know that diamond's inert. We know that it has different properties from graphene. And so and graphite is actually multiple sheets of graphene. We've been using graphite in our lead pencils forever. Well, as soon as we stopped using lead, we started using graphite. And every time you're writing with a lead pencil, or now a graphite pencil, you're actually leaving a layer of graphene on that piece of paper. So graphene on its own is not inherently dangerous. and its structure is significantly different. So we're really not talking about the same animal. I kind of left off, those scientists won the Nobel Prize. The reason they won the Nobel Prize is because this soccer ball shaped molecule is absolutely amazing. It makes great inks, batteries, tires, and photocells. By the way, those are all things you typically don't think of when you're thinking of something that you might want to try to consume. And we were talking just before the show about hexane, right? And benzene, the benzene ring. So the benzene ring is an incredibly important molecule for our society. We actually don't have our modern society without it. If you look around your room, anything that's made with plastic has a benzene ring as its base. A lot of medicines that we're familiar with and lean on heavily have benzene as their base, and also a lot of detergents. Just modern society isn't the same without the benzene ring. It turns out that the benzene ring is actually toxic and carcinogenic, and that same shape exists on the exterior of the soccer ball cage. In fact, there's 20 of those as you're going around this cage. Because of that, scientists actually thought that this molecule would be toxic, and they put it in a toxicity study, and they published the results of that toxicity study in 2012. So in that study, they gave test subjects, in this case, it was Wistar rats. So they gave them water, olive oil, and then olive oil with this molecule. Then we call it ESS60, and I'll talk about that here in a second. Instead of being toxic, the rats that they gave olive oil with ESS60 dissolved in it lived 90% longer than the control group. So you have the single longest longevity experimental result in history. That's peer-reviewed published research. And that was really kind of what changed me from being a happy-go-lucky carbon nanomaterial scientist and kind of thrusting me in the direction of getting into the supplement industry, which is, there's some challenges that I've been concerned about in the supplement industry. And I think we've done a really good job of coming in on delivering a high-quality product, furthering research on that product, and sharing the information about that product just across the board.
Yeah, and I'm one of those guys who actually goes in and opens those reports. And this was off of Science Direct. And then when you go to the bottom of that, it repeated an oral administration of the fullerene. When you come down in there, there must be hundreds of other documents connected to that shows the source material and supplemental material that backs up that research, and it just rolls and rolls and rolls. It seems that wherever this is touched in a scientific basis, there's something to it.
Yeah, like the way I describe it is this molecule, again, we call it ESS60 if you're going to consume it, performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application. It's a very unique molecule. It's got six-fold symmetry. So there's 6 planes through this soccer ball shaped molecule there that are symmetric. And so it's incredibly resilient. You can fire it at a plate of steel at 50,000 miles an hour, where most molecules would just shred apart. This one in my head, I picture it like compressing and then bouncing right back because of that stability. And it also has the ability to hold up to 6 electrons on the exterior of it and then let them go without any damage to the cage. That becomes really important later as you start to talk about antioxidants and the impact that this antioxidant can have in your body.
Yeah, a lot of people are focused on health these days, especially after, what we've gone through these last years here. Now, I do have a lot of people writing in and ask me, does this help cleanse the body? I see there's a whole bunch of things about cleansing, quote unquote, if you want to use that in air quotes there as just a general term. And you mentioned it, you got to really be on top of some companies just throwing junk out there. They're just riding on top of names, piggybacking on top of a fad, this sort of thing. But what is it about those free radicals, and what is it about with the buckyball itself? I mean, how is anything able to get in there and cleanse, for a better term? I'm just trying to bring it down to a simplistic view for everybody to be able to understand the action or reaction with that.
Well, that's a great question. And I can start first with you kind of alluded to, maybe something getting inside of this soccer ball shaped cage. It turns out any atom on the periodic chart can fit inside of it. It is big enough for that. But beyond that, you really can't use it for much else, right? So not much else can go in there and be beneficial. So really what this is doing If you think about that original study, right, these rats live 90% longer. By the way, just to share, a typical Wistar rat lives out 32 months and has a known amount of tumor mass in its body. So, in fact, the longer it lives, the more tumor mass it has in its body. Despite the C60 Evo rats living out 90% longer, out to 62 months, none of them had any tumors. So this is really an important result out of that initial study. When I share the story of that study that you read, by the way, most people don't read the story, so I really appreciate that, or the paper. I get two responses. One is just kind of the funny response. If they happen to be from New York, they're like, "Why would we want rats to live longer? You need to bury this. We don't want to, hide this material. We don't want longer living rats." So that's kind of the funny side of things. The other is really kind of very sobering, which is a lot of people ask the question, why would I want to live longer? Like, what is it that would interest me in living longer? And for me, it's always been kind of an interesting question, a question that didn't resonate with me, because I've always, for whatever reason, at a young age, was like, I'm going to live to 125, right? Like, I just chose a number out of the hat. So living longer was always of interest to me. And if I'm honest, I didn't think that 125 was going to look that good, right? Like, that's the real challenge that we have with living longer, is we can't disassociate living infirmed with living longer. I think if you ask the question, how much longer would you like to live infirmed? Most people are like, well, not that much longer. Like, that doesn't sound that attractive. But if you change the question to say, hey, David, if you had the same mental capacity that you have today and you had the same physical capacity that you have today, would you then be interested in living longer? And that's that shift. That's where people start to go, well, yeah, that starts to sound interesting. I like to note, and this is kind of facetious, but in the original studies, they did not have any notations that those rats that lived 90% longer were walking around with little rat walkers and little rat oxygen tanks, right? They lived healthy rat lives. They just lived at 90% longer than their control cohorts, and they survived without tumors. So hopefully I got the answer to your question in that story somewhere.
Yeah, you did. And I would definitely want to live longer, especially once you figure out vibration and frequency and how to bend that. Then it gets real interesting, and you could take that for hundreds of years. So I'm with you on it. Now, Patty, if I could ask you a question, because you're saying something just so, as you joined up here, prepping. A lot of people are into that. I want to circle back. This is how I want to do. I want to try to circle back to that. A lot of people are getting things in order, and they're buying multiples of to get ready for if there are supply chains that break down. And especially now that we see a lot of pharmaceuticals that are not forthcoming, things are being cut off at the base supply chain there from country XYZ, and now it's hitting the mainstream publications that, there might be a problem with this, or it might be a problem securing that for hospitals and medical use. So I'm just curious how you think it fits into the whole, holistic getting ready to take care of ourselves in terms of our own nutrition, our own food intake and production, as well as what we can do to keep our bodies functioning more optimally as we come into times when there's just not going to be as much. We're going to go through this, we'll roll out, and it's going to be just a few years we're going to have to take care of ourselves more, but then after that, things should rebound. But you can already clearly see the headlights are here. You're going to step out of the way for a minute, and then we can get right back on it. So how do you see that working? Because I'm trying to adjust maybe some of the things I want to get ready, and then also those are listening here of what they're thinking that they could add to their stocks also as we move through these next few months.
When you look at priorities in people's lives, food, water, warmth, security, but also health, which is our greatest wealth, what can we find that can kind of cover a lot of bases at the same time? The amazing thing about this miracle molecule ESS60 is that we only see through testimonials, people are having mental clarity. Now, at a time like this, when everybody's freaking out, the threat of the banks, whatever, the threat of diesel, whatever, UPS, FedEx, I mean, all of it is risking, the reality right now, because it's all being run by very unknown entities that are leaving us all in tremendous question. I find that I'm so balanced, it blows my mind just taking this product. So that alone right there for me is huge moving into the unknown. And this is a big unknown because we don't know what's real. Is it the plan, or is it, where we go one, we go all, or are we moving into the loss of all of our freedoms? We don't know. But we do know that ESS 60 did prove to be the greatest longevity test in history while it was being tested for toxicity. So that says a lot right there. But again, the quality of life is so important. On a physical level, Chris talks about mitochondria and the molecules. I talk about physically what happened to me when I started taking it. It's like a roto-rooter. So you want to talk about cleansing? ESS 60 is like a roto-rooter in your system, like a cleansing. Did you notice that?
And again, the clarity, I was able to focus for longer periods of time. And I don't know if that makes sense to a lot of people, but it's easy to get distracted. But for some reason, I was able to hold that state for a little while longer than getting, okay, what's that over there? Distraction on that.
Right. So the mental clarity thing is amazing. How could an oil that you take, the one that you have is the ESS 60 extra virgin olive oil.
Yeah, so let me jump in. Thank you for the box that y'all sent to me here. Well packed and beautiful wrapping. You're in for a surprise. And also it comes in even another smaller box to encapsulate. Now, with the box itself, they give you these cards inside here, organic edible oils. So what do I have? I had the MCT oil and then the avocado oil, ESS 60. Both those are blended in there. Thank you for that. I do use this in my coffee, because like I was talking to Chris, caffeine extends, but also it's just an easy way to take it. It's a no-brainer. Just put it in there. And it's not like, oh, I have to take a teaspoon or whatnot. Also, facial serums is another one that was included. That'll be something like this, the C60 EVO Advanced Facial Serum. That was good. My wife will enjoy this here. Also, the lip, those things are excellent. I mean, this is the richest lip balm you'll ever try here. Great one. I'm a fan. I'm always working outside, so my lips are always getting chapped and burned in the wind, especially on windy days. I find that whatever it is, whenever it's windy days, just seem burned, especially a lot of it on the lips. Now, don't laugh. We got the hair renewal. You people are laughing, go, dude, you need to grow a mohawk out here. So these come in a set. They're not pre-mixed, so you're gonna have to mix those yourself. Again, I'm exploring everything that came in the box for me. And also, lastly, for the pets. A lot of companies are running with pets now, pet product, but you got to think about it. How much junk is in the boxes that our pets consume? Like for me, I have a farm out here, so we're always buying 50-pound bags of feed, and I am shocked by the junk and the ingredients inside, what's considered quote-unquote dog food. It's nothing but filler, corn filler, soy filler, filler. So you can see that, animals seem to be consuming a lot more quote-unquote junk food than any of us, because that's all they're getting. It might look yummy with the beef flavor, but, I'm careful about even what dog food I choose for my own animals. I want them to live as long as they can. So think about that. Thank you for sending me this. The boxes, and again, are well packed. I mean, this thing went, traveled across the country through the ringer, everything in perfect shape when it arrived. And enjoy discounts on bundled products, subscriptions, save 25% on subscriptions, and then take another 10% off using the code ADAPT2030 when you check out.
This is our new label. So both labels are correct. They're from our company. But this is the strongest carbon 60 fullerenes you will find on the market today. We've got 0.8 to 0.86 milligrams per milliliters in the olive oil, and it is potent. It also, like you said, I would like you to talk about what you feel it did for your coffee. I was hooked on the coconut oil in my morning coffee for so many reasons. Mainly, it's extremely delicious. It has half as much ESS 60 as the olive oil. So you want to take twice as much, or a lot of people don't want a big energizing buzz to start their day. We do, those of us using our brains. This to me is the most important thing, up there with food, water, exercise. We can't push the clean air issue out there, but we can do our best to have clean body on the inside. And we find that ESS60 and the peptides that we're working with are having tremendous results on hair renewal, skin renewal. And the testimonials are mind-boggling. We have to be mindful. And Chris probably will do a disclaimer shortly so that, you know, we don't have any issues with the agencies. But the testimonials are screaming great, especially for people and pets. Like pets are... People are saying, yeah, he couldn't, you know, make it down the stairs to go to the bathroom, so I had to carry him down. Now he's bounding up the stairs. So these are my simpleton versions of what it does. It takes old dogs and brings them back to their tricks again. Old cats. I mean, we're hearing really funny stories like old dogs humping again. You know, what's that? But if that was with people, it'd be nice to get your, you know, your juju back. And I think that, you know, animals represent a lot also that are aspects of people that are improving. I'm curious what else you notice taking the oil, because you've done the flavors, a variety of them.
Yeah, one thing, just before I even found out anything, C60, anything at all, it was always about the caffeine would rush through me. So I was looking for something that could extend keeping the caffeine, because I love to jump on it in the morning too and get a lot of work done and get those difficult tasks done first, exhales off, and then go into something a little bit easier as the day trends on. But caffeine seems to hold in the body and bind to different fat oils, I guess. For me, I actually put extra virgin olive oil in my coffee, or I'll substitute it out with coconut oil, either one of those. It extends longer, where I can actually feel that caffeine instead of getting that huge boost at the same time. It sort of smooth that level out. And then also the SS60, at the end of the day, I just wasn't as tired at the end of the day either. So, you know, a lot of, if you're just looking at strictly caffeine, you go up and down, but having better diet and then also, you know, ESS60 in there, it seemed that as my day went on, it was sort of smooth. And even at the end of the day, it wasn't nearly as tired, where you're like, okay, let's get up, we'll go outside, we'll, you know, do something else here. That energy kept continuing on for a longer period of time, hours. And I'm talking hours, where it's noticeable at the end of it, where you're more revitalized and awake. And, you know, you can see those kind of quantifiables at the end of the day. And if you do it for one day and you're like, okay, that's a one-off. 2 days, okay, maybe it was the same thing. But when you get it week after week, then that starts to become, well, there's something to this. So I hope that answered the question for you.
Well, and I think you fit right in, David, with our most consistent testimonial, right? Our most consistent testimonial is people take it in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. And I'm not aware, like, you can exercise in the morning, that'll have a positive impact on sleep that night. You can get exposure to the sun in the morning. That'll get your circadian rhythm in line with the rising and falling of the sun. That'll help your sleep that night. I'm not aware of other things that you take in the morning and then positively impact your sleep at night. And it's interesting you're saying you still have the energy, because we get about 1% to 3% of our customers will say if they take it too late in the day, they find that it gives them too much energy and interrupts their sleep. And I think what's actually happening is the way it is for me is I've got this constant strong energy. Now, if I'm doing back-to-back shows, or I'm, you know, in the lab doing some crazy experiments, it's mentally taxing. And today's one of those days. So I'm actually going to go ahead. I've got my shot right here. I'm all scientific, right? So I get my 5 mils exactly. And it's olive oil, tastes like olive oil. People enjoy olive oil, or there are some people who don't enjoy olive oil. You can take a sip of water if you don't. I actually do. So if I have a busy day, yeah, I might take another teaspoon, which is the recommended serving. When I'm going to bed, my mind is just incredibly active. It's almost so active. You know, there's those nights, you know, you've taken the product, but a lot of your audience, I'm sure, has those nights where, like, you're going to bed and you're just not tired and your brain is really on firing on overdrive. And you're like, I don't even know if I should bother going to sleep. That's kind of how I feel, except when my head hits the pillow, I'm out, right? Like, so high energy, good focus, out, wake up maybe in the middle of the night to use the restroom. Same thing, high energy. I could get up and go work, whatever, use the restroom, back to the pillow and back out. So I think even for the 1 to 3% of our customers who report that, it's more of a just not trying to put their head on the pillow. It's like, I'm so wide awake, I shouldn't even bother. And I understand that sentiment. I just wish they would try. They would probably find that they fall straight asleep. And by the way, Patty did mention, disclaimer, this is my opportunity. We will talk about testimonials, about anecdotal testimonials. Clearly take those with a grain of salt. The FDA has not evaluated our products. They are not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. And I like just to share, listen, we're sharing what's happened with us. You just assume that it's not going to happen to you. If you like some of the research that's out there, you like some of what you're hearing, then yeah, maybe try it. But we're not making any claims that anything we're saying is going to happen for you.
Yeah, that's fair. It's up for people to do their own research as well and really find what works for them best. I understand
sure.
that. Yeah, I get that. And thank you for, stating that. Because today's world, it seems like we're walking on eggshells quite a bit wherever we touch into. At least my channel, I talk about cycles in the sun and cyclic activity. Having more energy, and you look through these chapters of history too, and it doesn't matter, you go back about every 400 years and we come into some other, times where food production kind of decreased, economies changed. Well, in our modern era, what that means, we're going to need to do crystal clear thought, and our bodies are going to need to be more in tune, and you're going to have to do a lot more physical work for those of you who are going to want to grow your own food. So looking at something that kind of covers all those bases, where you're going to have to fire on all cylinders, really. The minute you get up, you're going to just have to be going at it. And, read about how our forefathers used to have to operate. They didn't have time to sit around and twiddle the thumbs and watch Netflix all the time. They were out there doing something pretty much all the time.
Yeah, and that something had to be productive, right? Like it wasn't just, okay, yeah, they might take a walk because it's good for kind of your soul. But if they were out, they were doing things that were incredibly productive. One of the things that you kind of asked, David, was, okay, so what might the mechanisms for this life extension be, right? These rats live 90% longer. And the easiest way to describe this is the medical community thinks about aging as inflammation and oxidation. So our bodies are getting oxidized, we're in a state of inflammation, and that's what's ultimately damaging our body. It turns out that our product ticks both of those boxes. So it's an antioxidant. There's peer-reviewed published research that shows it 125 times more powerful than vitamin C. And there's even an ad hoc study that shows it 172 times more powerful than vitamin C. So certainly check that box. The other box is inflammation. And what the FDA does allow us to say about our product is that it improves inflammation that's related to exercise, right? So we've all had like a tough workout, or maybe just walked longer someday and we've woke up and just felt that inflammation. Our product does help with that. What we're not allowed to talk about is helping any other type of inflammation, because that's associated with diseases. It does turn out that our product fits perfectly in with an anti-inflammatory diet. That's a diet associated with the blue zone people. Those people tend to have longer lives. They tend to have reduced incidences of stroke, reduced incidences of heart attacks. And yeah, we do fit into that anti-inflammatory diet.
So I've heard people talking about putting this olive oil on salads. Is there any validity to that? Could I really just add it in on a salad? So if I don't want to take, let's say I'm adverse to the drinking, however many milliliters it might be, could I put it on a salad and have that with that? Or is that too far out of the bounds to?
Absolutely.
I'll just share my routine, right? So this has kind of evolved over time. I wake up and I don't know if you got your kind of oil and coffee idea from Bulletproof Coffee. Is that where you got it from? There's a recipe out there called Bulletproof Coffee.
I know that company.
Yeah. So that's out there. What he adds to coffee is ghee, like purified butter, and MCT. I do the same. I've actually gotten rid of the ghee. I don't need all that much fat, but I do include the MCT, and it's our MCT with the ESS60 molecule. And I put about 1.5 teaspoons in my coffee while that's blending. It's oil and water, so you got to blend it. While that's blending, I take 1.5 teaspoons of our olive oil product. So that's my morning piece. When it comes to lunch, I'm often having a salad. And when I have that salad, I put about 1 tablespoon of our avocado product on it. So I'm kind of consuming it throughout the day. And really, yes, that answers your question. Some people who don't like the taste, you can sop it up in bread. just know that it's not an inexpensive product. It's not a crazy expensive product, but you want to make sure that whatever's coming out of the bottle that you're consuming. So something like bread where you sop it up might be a better choice.
And I want to tell you a recipe from Roseanne Barr, who loves our C60 Evo. She does coconut or avocado toast, where she slices avocado on a piece of toast, drizzles the avocado oil, and then grazes it with sea salt, which she absolutely loves. I just watched one of our older Ann Vandersteel testimonials, and she also talked about avocado oil on her bread with sea salt. So I didn't realize it was such a thing, but that's another way to use it. Additionally, we have the 3 flavors of oil, but for people that don't like it, like you mentioned, we make capsules. And we have people that absolutely love the caps because not only is it the strongest extra virgin olive oil, but the capsule sometimes treats the stomach like a food product as it's dissolving, so that you're getting food as a stimulator for the oil. I always recommend taking it before noon with food and water for best absorption, best results. But that's just me. Chris can drink a cup of coffee and have a shot of Evo olive oil and go right to sleep.
Yeah, I'll answer your question with Bulletproof Coffee. I learned about nootropics from them. That was the first time I'd ever really heard about it. But once I learned what that was, let me go. So I'm wondering also, for the clarity of mind is one thing, but the overall, better quote, health of the brain and those synapses continuing, rejoining those synapses that might have been snapped or broken through habits or reconnected or disconnected, for another word. I'm wondering how that might also fit into that category of people who are interested in brain health.
Yeah, so MCT has a really strong history of supporting brain health, right? So that's a good, it's just good right out of the gate. It gets into your system and doesn't need to be converted into sugar, so your body uses it as an energy source right away. Also good if you're doing keto. So MCT with the ESS60, good for all of those. We do know that the ESS60 molecule crosses the blood-brain barrier, right? So that gives it the opportunity to be beneficial in the brain. You bring up this question, right? Mental focus, that's one of our consistent testimonials. Sleep is one of our consistent testimonials. And in fact, we really have testimonials from head to toe. And I've been racking my brain. Really, we started bringing this product out. I was hesitant about getting into the supplement industry. In 2019, we said, hey, our phone starts ringing 10 times a day, and we really do need to bring it to our customers. And our customers are just sharing these amazing testimonials. My job as chief scientist is to figure out, okay, well, why is this happening? Like, what's going on? And if it was just sleep, then that could explain basically everything, right? Because we know that sleep is good for your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. But we actually have kind of dug into it further. There's peer-reviewed published research that supports this concept. I don't want to, there's kind of a long description, but basically we know that it gets into the mitochondria. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of every cell in your body, except for blood cells. Every cell has between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria. And basically the mitochondria's job is to take the food that our stomach and intestines have processed that are floating around in our bloodstream, take that, convert it into ATP, which is the energy source that your cells use to do their job, whether they're a liver cell, heart cell, kidney cell, whatever. So those mitochondria are responsible for that. Just like most energy sources, there's some negative byproducts, right? A car going down the road, a power plant with its exhaust stack. What comes out of mitochondria are reactive oxygen species. Those are the negatively charged particles that do damage. When I mentioned the medical community talks about oxidation being one of the kind of principal mechanisms of aging, it's these reactive oxygen species, these negatively charged particles. So with this ESS60 molecule present in the mitochondria and these reactive oxygen species negatively charged, present in the mitochondria, I mentioned earlier that this soccer ball shaped molecule can hold up to 6 of those reactive oxygen species. And really it can just prevent them from doing damage until maybe a mitochondria has run out of it. its typical antioxidants, which are glutathione and melatonin. And then once that mitochondria replaces those antioxidants, then they can take those reactive oxygen species off of the ESS60 molecule. Kind of picture it like a paddy wagon, right? Like the glutathione and the melatonin, those are the antioxidants. Those are the police. You've got your reactive oxygen species. They're the drunk people at the end of Mardi Gras running up and down Bourbon Street, breaking stuff and knocking things over. If the glutathione and melatonin are busy with other reactive oxygen species, then all they do is throw those reactive oxygen species into the paddy wagon onto that ESS60 molecule until they can be managed later, preventing them from damaging Bourbon Street or damaging really kind of injecting longevity, right? That's what kind of reactive oxygen species tend to inject aging. And so that's the current theory about what's going on. And obviously we have mitochondria in our brain cells. And so more efficient running brain cells, this all just starts to make sense.
Oh, Patty, I thought you were going to add something in there. I knew you were, as I was just waiting.
I'm holding. I think it's important to elaborate the difference between C60 Evo and pretty much all the other C60 companies. Chris wanted me to change the name after we were in for a year to ESS60 Evo, but I think that so many people in the past have known carbon-60 as maybe some kind of miracle molecule, but nobody else other than our lab delivered the 2012 Paris Bhakti study ESS60. It wasn't carbon-60 for industrial purpose. It was the good stuff for humans and pets made by our lab. We're the only lab in the world making it. We're also the only lab that's been in the business for 31, is it 2 years now?
It's 32 years now, yeah.
32 years. I mean, he doesn't even look old enough, but the more he takes, the younger he gets. I don't know. It's working for him for sure. But we have the longest running lab in history of making C60 and ESS60. The difference is industrial grade for solar cells, tires, batteries, which ink we talked about earlier. Nobody wants to put carbon-60 in their body because it's not clean enough for humans and pets. So they upgraded when they realized there's some loud girl doing all these shows in the UFO industry, but saying, oh my God, what's this C60 stuff? It was me. So Chris and I got together. He's like, you're out there blowing us up. What's going on? And I said, you're the one making it. We should meet and really come up with the right products. And they flew me out so quick, made my head spin. And we have definitely the most breakthrough advanced technology, which is the ESS60. So what we did at the lab was they took a long time upgrading the process of cleaning the fullerenes so that they became pure C60 ESS60. And Chris and Robert named it, and we trademarked the ESS60 to differentiate from people selling, unfortunately, stuff that should be used for tires and solar cells. So we have to be mindful, with the other companies. That's why we are really clear about not being a C60 company. We are ESS60 when it comes to selling these products for humans and pets. Best thing to do is be prepped, be prepared with something that works.
What's next? We see AI so cleanly out there, and then what's next in terms of, electrogravitics and different types of technologies that are being thrown out to us with magnetic motors, et cetera. But then what's next in terms of the body, like you said, the longevity of the body? I mean, looking at alien tech or whatnot versus, this AI rollout, and then our bodies are going to have to augment to run with this as well at the same time. I was just throwing that out there because you talked about longevity.
It becomes really interesting, right? So you think about my journey, happy-go-lucky carbon nanomaterial scientist. They come out with a toxicity study. Instead of being toxic, the test subjects live 90% longer. I'm the largest manufacturer and distributor of that molecule. So now we're kind of thrust into this, or eventually get thrust into this industry. And it's really put me, I feel like my responsibility is share this research, to actually drive research. We're about to publish a paper with the original scientist of that original study. That's really exciting to be kind of on the cutting edge like that. But it's thrown me into, I need to understand more about really what can be called a biohacking community, right? A group of people who are like, how do I hack my body to be the best, strongest, fastest, healthiest, longest living body that I can make it into? And you start digging into some of these cutting edge longevity experts. One of them is a Dr. David Sinclair out of Harvard. He's at Harvard Medical School. He's not a physician. He's just been researching at Harvard Medical School. And one of the things that his book, it's called Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to. It's called Lifespan, Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to. And the whole purpose of the book is really to advocate for the medical community to change their mindset about aging. Currently, aging is a thing that happens, fact, period, end of story. And the diseases of aging, like Alzheimer's and heart disease and arthritis, those diseases get individual funding, right? You submit an arthritis proposal, you submit an Alzheimer's or a dementia proposal. And his point is that if you can mitigate aging, you actually end up solving all of those diseases of aging with one fell swoop. And so I'm pretty excited about where this is going, moving in the direction. I think one day, very sadly, there will be, or very happily, right? There will be, sad for this person, there will be somebody who is the last person to die of natural causes, right? I think that we're going to get to the point. And, when that happens, I'm not sure. There's a thing called the terminal velocity of aging, which is the point at which every day that passes, if the medical community can extend life by 1 day and 1 second, then ostensibly you're going to stop dying, right? Like your lifespan will go on indefinitely. Of course, there's no solution for, jumping out of an airplane and your parachute not opening, or, whatever other things might happen. But just to die of aging, I think is going to be something of the past. And I think that's really exciting. Like I think you can have some incredibly challenging philosophical conversations about whether people living longer or forever is longer is good in my mind, but forever, where does that sit in kind of philosophically? But that's for a different podcast.
Yeah, we could go for days on that. You heard it here first. All right. Well, I hope everybody got something out of this, and I know you're going to have a million questions, so please put them in the the comment section below. I'll read those, respond to them, and anything that I have no idea what the question is, I can throw on over here. And Chris or Patty, hope you can answer some of those as the comments come in, as they will. But before we jump off, any last thoughts that you want to impart here? I was trying to take the conversation to answer some of the questions that I had in my mind, in terms of my own personal things. But, everybody out there as a collective probably asked from here to here.
I think everybody has something to heal, be it body, mind, spirit, bones, joints, stomach aches all the time. The big C, we cannot make medical claims. This did begin as a natural molecule. Needless to say, the more people that try it, the more people are going to love it. And put in David's code, and you'll get another 10% off your first order at checkout. We take the time to make it right. I think we're the only ones that mix the product for 3 weeks with inert gas in a closed, no light, no heat, no air. It's immaculate, the process. And then it gets tested before it goes out the lab. Every batch is what the label says.
Good to know. All right. Well, thanks for watching again. As I said with everybody, we'll check the comments and below, leave anything you like. Chris Burres and Patty Greer right here, C60 EVO ESS 60. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye for now.